join our worthy hosts, Rodan and Kibler.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone Championship Tour in Shanghai. Hope you guys enjoyed the first couple of matches that happened, as you just saw Kranich be able to defeat Dog and stay alive, but we have plenty more action to come. My name is Frodo, and I'm joined by Brian Kibler, and after that wonderful introduction to the Innkeeper, let's go ahead and preview the next match that we have coming up for you on stream. DiegoDias from Brazil going up against Trunks from China. Kibler, both these guys lost to very respectable opponents. We saw DiegoDias drop to Kalento in a very tight series. Trunks lost to Mage, who seems to be the darling child of many Western control players. What do you think is going to be happening for this upcoming best of 5?
Well, I think one big thing with this is that both these players kind of have the pressure of their regions on them. We've just heard that China is 0-6 so far in this tournament, and DiegoDias is the only Latin American, South American competitor. So it's got to be a lot of pressure on both of these players.
That's right. This is the first time that we have a player from Latin America ever represented on the global stage. That's right. No one from Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Chile, some of these countries that are really rising up in the ranks of America's region have ever gotten even to a seasonal championship. DiegoDias is the first. And of course, these guys are all playing not just for the right to call themselves a spring champion, but also for a right to join the other 4 players who perform very well in the Bahamas, earning themselves the tickets to Worlds.
In the Bahamas, Hearthstone made history. The Hearthstone Championship Tour headed to Paradise for its first global seasonal championship. And when the Doom Hammer fell, 4 worthy players won coveted spots in the World Championship.
He sees it!
DiegoDias of Russia never lost a match during the tournament.
What dominating fashion from DiegoDias.
And bested a stellar field to hoist the trophy. Frozen of the United States recovered from an up-and-down start.
Frozen!
You're going to the Hearthstone World Championship.
To finish second and is headed to Worlds. Doc Pone of Canada proved age is just a number.
Doc Pone, the 32-year-old player.
As the field's oldest player, enjoyed a potentially life-changing performance. And Samuel Tsao was one of the tournament's biggest surprises, out-dueling the group of Doom to win his way to the World Championships.
I did it.
And now, half a world away from the Bahamas, 16 players have gathered in Shanghai, each dreaming of joining this acclaimed group at the World Championships. Which 4 players will win their way to Hearthstone's biggest tournament? The Spring Championships from China continues.
16 has been aired down to 14 as Xtope and Dog from China have been eliminated. We've brought this up many times. China is now 0-6. If you look at the game score, it's even more of a disparage. We have 6-19, 6 wins, 19 losses. A huge deficit that China has to make up. It's not even just at the fact that they're losing, Brian. They're losing very convincingly.
And it's got to be tough. You know, I imagine that some of these players may be shaken just playing in front of such a big crowd here at home. Just the pressure of this Chinese crowd really maybe getting to them.
That's right. And, you know, and I got to say, looking at the crowd, they look very deflated when the Chinese players are losing, but when they're winning, they're so into it. They're walking around, they're cheering. And you kind of got to feel for Trunks here coming up. He's got the pressure on him, and they're saying, make this losing streak stop. And it's going to go up against DiegoDias, who also has a lot to prove, saying, I'm not just a fluke. I represent Latin America, and if we take a look at Open Cups, Latin America has been pushing it. A lot of their players are some of the top point earners for the region of Americas. You look at the top 8, we had almost 3 players go through for the spring season and make it to the championship. 2 of them fell at the doorstep, Kibler, and I feel like I hear the roars of Latin American players saying, we definitely are players to be feared. People just don't know about it yet.
Yeah, this is really tough to really pick someone to root for in this match because DiegoDias is such a great competitor from an up-and-coming region, but Trunks here, the semi-pro, he's not even a professional player, who's one of the last hopes of China in this hometown event.
East versus West, 2 regions crying out to say that they're better than what they are currently. Let's go ahead and meet our players. The first from China, bearing the entire burden of the country, please welcome Trunks. His opponent, the hero of Latin America for the first time on the global stage. Please welcome DiegoDias.
Elimination match number 3. DiegoDias versus Trunks.
From all the 3 players, Trunks is the one I know the least. I actually tried searching a lot, but it was very hard to find.
I watched video of DiegoDias and his decks were slow decks. I am good against slow decks.
So he's the one I know the least and the one I might be most concerned because I don't quite know how to prepare for him.
DiegoDias versus Trunks. Ready, set, go!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the desk. I'm TJ, joined by That's Admirable, and we're about to jump into the 3rd elimination match of the day. And a couple big stories coming into this one. Trunks, one of the 2 Chinese players left in the tournament, 0-6 currently for their region. And, you know, a lot of pressure rests on his shoulders. DiegoDias, Dan said it. I mean, pressure rests on his shoulders as well, being the only South American representative on the global stage and the only one that we've ever seen on a global stage.
That's right. And that alone being a big story really starts to touch home for me when I look at these 2 guys. When we spoke to them both in interviews, they really had an emphasis on family, where Trunks, he's been married for quite a while now, works in IT. DiegoDias, he's been working with a family business for a long time. Says he really wants to represent Brazil and South America, really put them on the map and have esports grow faster than what he would like that it has been there. And, you know, working in that family business and speaking from the heart and that passion, this is a big match for both of these guys because it's do or die time. They are in the Hearthstone equivalent of the steel cage match.
And DiegoDias has his work cut out for him looking at the deck list. DiegoDias brought a pretty slow lineup to the tournament. A couple control decks in there, Quest Warrior and Nizal Paladin. Whereas Trunks, he essentially brought an anti-control lineup. Jade Druid, the mid-range Murloc Paladin, Bird Mage, Quest Rogue, all of those decks have favorable matchups against most control lineups. So I think DiegoDias has an uphill battle here. And both these players being sort of the 2, I'd say, most unknown players in the field. A lot to prove.
Yeah, both of them mentioned that they would like to be playing Hearthstone full-time, absolutely professionally. For Trunks, that means a win at a tournament like this. It means getting to a top 4 and finding himself at the World Championships. You know, DiegoDias said it as well. He really wants to be playing Hearthstone full-time, but he's got to work at the family business to be paying some of those bills. So this match for the 2 of them, really big tone setter for the rest of this tournament.
It's going to be the equivalent of a steel cage match. That's in Hearthstone, Admirable.
There is no escaping this one.
Nope.
You have to win. It's the only way out.
One player wins, moves on. The other player eliminated from the tournament. Let's get into it, though. First game, DiegoDias on the Nizal Paladin and Trunks on the Burn Mage.
He does have a more controlling version of the Burn Mage, though. A couple of old-school choices in here. He's got that copy of Pyros, of course, that you see in the opening hand to help ensure he's got some drops at every step of the way, but he's also got a Cabal Courier. He's got a Polymorph. He's got a Meteor. A lot of choices that we've seen somewhat rotated out of the more refined Burn Mage decks, as I would call them.
He's got a lot of one-ups. Acolyte of Pain as well, a Flame Strike in there. And the cards you mentioned, Cabal Courier, Polymorph. Sort of a mishmash of a deck, but, you know, sometimes it's about comfort. Sometimes it's about getting in there and just playing the cards that you like. Burn Mage is a tried and tested deck in the current meta. And you go a couple cards off to try and increase your win rate in certain matchups, the ones that he expected to hit. You know, I am not unhappy with some of these tech choices.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of a lot like what Jason Joe did in his group, but he ran into an entire aggro group. If he had been in, say, this particular one, I think you would have seen a better performance from him. And so far, Trunks, even though he dropped his first match, I do have to give him the edge where the deck lists are concerned. He has a lot of strong late-game potential where DiegoDias more concerned with handling aggressive pushes and then having just a massive turn at the end of the game to swing in his favor.
Yeah, right off the bat, DiegoDias picks Eye for an Eye, which is a secret that he's not going to use for a long portion of this game. Eye for an Eye is a good choice against these decks that rely on Ice Block to buy them extra turns, because you set them to 1, pop their block, set Eye for an Eye, or don't pop their block and set Eye for an Eye. Yeah. And you basically put the mage, should they have used Alexstrasza already, in a checkmate situation.
That's right. They'd have to be able to full burn you from the total that you're at, and that would force a draw in that instance.
You set that Eye for an Eye, you got him in a full sleeper hold.
It's tough to get out of. You can wait as long as you want, but eventually you're out. We talked about neither of these guys really being professional players, but I do want to talk about the finishes that they've had, because it's nothing to really scoff at. Trunks, he got 3rd place at the Gold Series for spring in 2017. He was top 8 of China versus Europe in 2017. And while he doesn't have a ton of big stage experience, he said as he's slowly been up there, piece by piece, it's made him a lot less nervous when he's on stage. Like, I remember my first time on stage, I couldn't count to 5, felt like. Wow. And that's on camera, too. I thought I had 6 mana, and I had 5. Really embarrassing.
It's a tough place to be in, man.
Don't go look it up. Close that browser.
I think we've all been there. Those moments where we just can't count to 5.
DiegoDias, not quite the same. He was top 4 of spring playoffs in 2017. He was top 4 of Copa America in Season 1 in 2017. He won Copa America in 2015 in Season 1, where he eventually finished top 4 at the Grand Final there. He was also in the Winter and Summer playoffs in 2016.
A little bit more of a pedigree than Trunks. Has been around the scene for, I think, a little bit longer. But still, both these players, compared to especially some of the European players, you look at their list of achievements, and it's pretty small compared to a lot of the players in this field. Whoa.
Well, as tempting as a choice as Diraxis is,
I think we're going with Diraxis.
We might be.
I don't know. That one's really tough.
Manoworm's an awfully good card.
Manoworm's really good, but Diraxis sort of gives you that, that little edge against the control deck. You set Diraxis against your control paladin on an empty board.
Well,
they got to deal with 6/6s.
It's also a way to get around eye for an eye.
Well, power
if
tentacles.
In that spot. Well, I was going to mention this too. I think that all 3 of these options are really viable in this spot. They all have just very different game plans, where I think Trunks feels comfortable enough that he doesn't need a big inevitability tool towards the end. His early game is strong enough that he doesn't feel like he needs to supplement that with Manoworm. And the Power Word Tentacles, that's certainly a top turnbuckle kind of maneuver where your opponent's not expecting it, and then bam, out of nowhere.
Tough moments. Especially with Pyros, you have so much minion gas.
Yeah.
With Pyros. Like, well, at any point in this game, I'm pretty likely to set a minion that sticks.
It's the Priest version of Spike Ridge Steed. Except you don't get a 2/6, you don't get Taunt.
But it's 1 less mana.
Sounds like a deal to me.
Amen, brother. Well, Consecration looks like pretty good, but that's a quality activator. Not a big minion-heavy deck, but could be a case.
Yeah, talking about DiegoDias' list more specifically, it's a pretty straightforward N'Zoth Paladin list. Really, the only tech choice that he's got is the 1 copy of Infested Doran, which I found somewhat interesting because not really a ton of weight that card is pulling in any matchup. It's a weak taunt, susceptible to almost all of the combat around turn 4. Seems all right versus like Quest Warrior, for instance, absorbing a shot or 2 here and there.
Yeah, it sort of just speaks to what his lineup's trying to do as well. Players that bring this type of control lineup want to target aggressive decks, and Infested Torrent does help you with that. But a lot of times in the slower matchups like this one, bringing it back from N'Zoth, not that great. It doesn't really block too much, and usually you're just happy with Tyrion and Garen coming back.
It's usually enough. Sometimes 2 Tyrions.
Sometimes 3 Tyrions.
I've yet to see 4.
It'll
sometimes.
Happen. Sometimes. Sort of back into the same position. Acolyte of Pain is very likely to draw 2 cards with the way the board's set up.
He just saw a Medivh's Valet too, but he also saw Arcanologist earlier in the game. So DiegoDias is trying to piece together, why would Trunks play this 2/3 before playing his secret?
Let me think.
Like, what's the importance of that? And you can see him really thinking deep into these turns. I mean,
maybe he got a Power of Tentacles from the Cabal Courier early on.
Well, that's a hard one to guess. And Trunks, his play starting to look fairly brilliant at this stage. If he can force Sunkeeper Tarim that early to simply handle a Medivh's Valet plus a Cabal Courier Discover, I think that's a success for him. Doesn't necessarily have to do that, but
I'd say so.
Looks pretty strong to me.
Yeah. Other options here, Frostbolt on the Acolyte of Pain and Ping. The problem with that is you're not putting on the pressure. You're not forcing answers out of the control paladin, which is, you know, sort of the way you beat it.
Yeah. One of the other big thoughts too is just spike grid speed on the following turn. Instead, he's just gonna power tentacles and clothesline that Acolyte of Pain. One draw. Diego's got laser focus.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to the spring playoffs. Diego, one thing that he has a ton of is patience. He is one of the oldest players in the field, pushing 30 a little bit, not quite at Doc Pone status. I believe he's 28. So he's been around the block a few times. He said when we were talking to him early in the week that he thinks, you know, one of the things that he has over some of the other competitors, a little bit more maturity. And along with that does come the patience. Did take his time throughout the spring playoffs, taking his time now. Watched his off-stream match yesterday doing the same exact thing. So, you know, you're sure that he's making the play that he thinks is best every turn.
Yeah. Now he's not too mature. It's like picture a tuxedo shirt.
Okay.
His goals when he came to this tournament, he said, were to get out of groups, make it to the World Championships, and to party.
Party was third.
But it was there.
Maybe in his younger years, Party would have been second, perhaps first.
I mean, if you think about tuxedo shirt, you want to look nice. You want everyone to know that you look nice, but you want to be comfortable.
Great point.
No attack from Trunks on the Stonehill here either. It's the old 6-6 Pyros go. And this is the kind of spot where DiegoDias is going to have to start doing more and more guesswork. At what stage does he really establish himself as the favorite in this matchup? Because as the clock ticks, it's closer to Alexstrasza. Trunks can continue to build that critical mass of burn spells. Where does he turn the corner is a very tough thing for him to identify in this matchup, I think.
Yeah, taking a look at, you know, how things look like they're going to play out with Alexstrasza being placed on 9. DiegoDias, the healing that he has available to him in his deck, Forbidden Healing, 1 copy, Ragnar's Light Lord, True Silver Champion. 1 True Silver Champion, mind you. You know, because of what his lineup's trying to do, has included a copy of Rallying Blade, which is usually essential in stopping aggressive decks because you can equip the weapon 1 turn earlier, which allows you to deal with Rockpool Hunter, Mana Worm, Arcanologist, Medivh Valet.
Yep.
All the 2/3s and 1/3s and whatnot that come out a turn sooner than True Silver Champion usually would like to deal with.
Yeah. And contrast all that with Fiery War Axe, mind you, and you realize how good that card is.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you just, you drop it on 9 and your turn's a 7/7.
Yeah. Definitely. That's when it's in easy big, easy game hunter range. Everybody plays that card.
You are absolutely correct.
I wonder.
Nothing screams out to me here. Firelands Portal seems like the only real play.
I think it's just the absolute best play for him in the spot, which is a big drop from it too. You know, anything with taunt at this stage I think is good because it's pulling weight against the True Silver Champion. But the big thing here is just he actually gets to develop a minion in a spot with his deck just really doesn't have that many minions in it. They're mostly meant for utility. And that's one of the more expensive burn spells in the deck. Not something you're really looking to couple with Alexstrasza. It's more something that you can afterwards.
Also, you're never unhappy to place a 5-mana 6/9 in your deck.
Correct.
Well, sometimes you're unhappy.
Yeah.
If your deck's like all 10/10s. You have 4 Storm Guardians in your deck. You're like, well, I'd rather draw a 5-mana 10/10 than a 5-mana 6/9, but the French case scenario.
Unless they've got Big Game Hunter. Yeah. Yeah. But you already, you know, your Tyrion already got Big Game Hunter from the Rally.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. If you're DiegoDias.
I think that DiegoDias would have much rather seen a Karen there as opposed to the Infested Torn if he could have picked Death Rattles, but I'm just going to set it up. You know, not the best hand for him. He doesn't have a quality activator. He does have some of the healing left, so he's got counters to Alexstrasza, but the big thing here is he doesn't have a way to deal with the Alexstrasza outside of Sunkeeper Terran. That guess is pretty good. Now that I think about it.
You know, another big
I said it out loud, and I'm like, oh, that's not bad.
That's a meteor.
Whoa.
So now Trunks has got checks to the late game minions as well. And that's a big point for Trunks at this stage because one of DiegoDias' main tools is simply N'Zoth. It's to overload the potential removal that Trunks has. Now Trunks has a natural copy of Meteor in his deck, the additional Meteor, plus he's got a Polymorph in his deck. I mean, he might literally be able to just wear DiegoDias out of stuff. He may not even have to win via damage at this stage. One by one, these minions get chopped down. And the Dirty Rat, I wanted to talk about Dirty Rat, pulling Alexstrasza and it being key if DiegoDias can handle the board pressure, but he also has to worry about the 10-10 Pyros in hand, which is not an ideal hit if your opponent, has Dirty Rat playing against him. I don't want to pull a 10-10 out of their hand unless you have an immediate way to generate value from that.
He does have an immediate way to deal with it with Sunkeeper Terran, but the thing is, he doesn't have a way to kill it. You'd have to, throw the True Server Champion into the Direhorn Hatchling, Dirty Rat, hit Pyros, then Sunkeeper Terran, then you got 3/3/3s on the board with your Sunkeeper Terran, which is such a huge resource.
Yeah.
He's got no backup plan either, if that's the case. He has no way to deal with, let's say he pulls something else, and then Pyros comes out just naturally. How does he deal with the 10-10 then? It's a fine balance, which is, it's going to be tough for DiegoDias, and this is a really tough turn. Ragnaros Lightlord, if it comes out now, the healing is, it doesn't really matter that much because you want to be able to see the Alex, remove the Alex, and then play Ragnaros Lightlord to make it so that your opponent has to get more burnout to get through it.
Wow.
Whoa. I did not expect this.
Honestly, I think this was just the best of his plays. I think Ragnaros Lightlord, the healing effect on it is too valuable for him to throw away.
Yeah.
I think the Dirty Rat's too weak to launch here. But then again, if he's not using Dirty Rat now, what's his game plan with that? I mean, he could have potentially shut off a Pyros in that spot. He could have stripped away Alexstrasza.
Maybe he's thinking about, well, if I draw removal later on in the game, equality plus an activator, then I Dirty Rat, then I remove, but
that's what he's thinking.
That's multiple turns away.
Go back to that Hydrologist too for a second, where DiegoDias took Eye for an Eye rather than, say, a Redemption. A Tyrion Redemption turn might be something that can get him out of this. But Eye for an Eye, he's so far behind in this game that it'll never make headway.
At this point, he's not even going to need Alexstrasza. He's got another Primordial Glyph.
I know.
In hand. He's got Frostbolt. It feels like he's just home free right now. There's not much that DiegoDias can do. N'Zoth is going to bring back an Infested Torrent.
He's body slamming him.
Deep in thought. How do I get out of this one? He gets the Ragnaros Lightlord when there's 9 damage at least staring at him on the board. He has not seen Alexstrasza. Oh boy.
Let me think.
This is bad news. It's not even like Trunks is anywhere near out of gas either. Like, if DiegoDias decides to take a risk, there's a good chance that he simply dies.
Move quickly.
I don't think there's a way he's taking.
Whoa! He's got to do this in Forbidden Healing, I think. This is one of his only ways, I think, to recover this game.
And Trunks has to be ecstatic to see that one.
Well, second Mana Worm drawn.
Snap Alexstrasza.
Absolutely.
He's going down to 12. Now DiegoDias has to set Ragnaros Lightlord to heal up and deal with the Alexstrasza. There's no way.
There's a piece of this puzzle missing right now.
He can Aldor Peacekeeper attacking the Mana Worm. Then what? Don't want a Dirty Rat, because you know there's a Pyros.
Let me think.
This is a figure 4 leg lock if I've ever seen one.
Indeed. That being said, I do feel that Mage is one of the best operating decks left versus DiegoDias after the Quest Road bans.
What did you expect?
Just hoping that there's an Arcanologist or something in there instead.
Follow the rule. Move quickly.
I'm actually curious just maybe he should have quality first.
I don't know, but that's game over. And Trunks is going to take game number 1 in a very convincing fashion. Is what his lineup's designed to do. It's designed to beat up on these control decks, and he gets it done with the Burn Mage.
This is a big win for Trunks. It's been the talk all tournament long that the Chinese representatives have been struggling. 0-6 in matches. They have to get a win on the board.
Is Trunks going to be the first Chinese player to win a match? He's probably the most unknown. He said he doesn't really fit with the rest of the Chinese players in this tournament because they've all, been on big stages before, and he really hasn't outside of, the Gold Series success and the CN versus EU success that he had. It's just he's trying to make himself into a professional player.
It's been somewhat of a theme this weekend, too. The newcomers triumphing. Look at Mage taking out Kalento. Look at Citizen Napa 2-0 in one of the hardest groups in the tournament.
Yeah, Trunks, we mentioned, he is a professional player. He's been on the big stage before, but his day-to-day lifestyle is a little bit different than some of the other players here, especially the other Chinese players. So go ahead and take a look.
I'm different from other competitors here because I'm not a professional Hearthstone player. I work in IT full-time, and I have a wife and baby, so I have very limited time to practice. My wife enjoys playing Hearthstone as well, and actually, the first present I ever got her was 40 Hearthstone packs. It might not be that romantic, but the game is something special to us. We started playing Hearthstone as a hobby, but realized I was good at it, so now I want to be the best.
3-1 to Trunks, 3-0 in the tournament, taking down one of the favorites from China, Jason Zhou.
This is my second international tournament, and I'm proud to be here, since out of all of China, only 4 of us made it. Winning this championship would change my life. I would become known by the Chinese fans. I'd get more opportunities to play Hearthstone and could become a professional player. And I think my wife would be proud of me.
You're darn right she would, Trunks. A little bit of Trunks' successes in Hearthstone thus far. Both him and his wife have achieved legend rank. He said they started as a hobby, and he said he got good. Well, your wife's pretty good too, bud.
And he speaks for himself on the Hearthstone packs. I would gladly take 40 packs.
I've never heard anything more romantic in my life, Admirable.
Never.
Yeah, but the crowd is behind Trunks in this one. And also looks like Matt Wabble is a member of Team 5 who has a ton of people gathered around him. They're waiting on something.
Oh, mama.
When the Oxeron is just right.
Everyone's having a good time here. So many fans in attendance, and the energy of the crowd has been up and down. And a lot of it has been resting on the shoulders of the Chinese performance.
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's a true Hearthstone show. We don't just have matches. You can see there the merchandise stand. We have activities going on.
Hit that up.
Yeah, we have the player banners in the back with the player signatures. Also, when all the attendees come in, they go through sort of a walk of history through Hearthstone, where they get to see some really cool original art. This is one of the coolest events I've ever attended, and I've been around the block a few times when it comes to Hearthstone, Nathan.
You got that right.
You got that right. Well, let's get into it. Game number 2. Can DiegoDias overcome the 1-0 deficit over Trunks? Well, Trunks finally put a win for China on the board. It's going to be Jade Druid versus Jade Druid.
Yeah, interesting to see how this matchup works out. Jade Blossom and Jade Idol, very key cards in this matchup, but Jade Idol oftentimes is a card that fuels your late game performance. A lot of times the Jade Druid matchup can be fairly even on both sides as you ramp up your Jade stuff. And it's the first player to unlock that giant Auctioneer turn that takes a mega advantage. But right off the bat, DiegoDias hangs on a Jade Idol, picks up no ramp. Trunks has got Wild Growth, he's got Jade Blossom, he's got Nourish.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Jade Blossom, I'd say probably the key card in most matchups for Jade Druid. Does everything. Ramps your mana, ramps your Jades. Really good card. But he's got ramp, and then he's got the gas to refill his hand. That is It's not an ideal start. Maybe would have liked to see a Jade Idol on 1, perhaps. But other than that,
I actually don't know if we would have wanted to see a Jade Idol.
yeah, perhaps.
I think with this much ramp, I like the security of the Auctioneer. It's a great hand. Talking about the lists, more specifically, Trunks is pretty straightforward. He's got 1 copy of Gluttonous Ooze, he's got 1 copy of Yogg-Saron. Everything else is fairly streamlined. In DiegoDias' build, he's only got 1 copy of Earthen Scale. He's throwing a Hungry Crab. He's only got 1 Barrel Rage. He has the Gluttonous Ooze. He's got a Galaka Crawler in there. There's no Yogg-Saron. DiegoDias' list is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it is almost 100% anti-aggro. We've said it many times over throughout the course of this match so far, is that's what his lineup was built to do. And, you know, a little bit unfortunate for him that he got in a group that had some lineups that were sort of anti-control, and he is just drawing pretty dead, and he's going to have to play the Gluttonous Ooze just as a tempo play here. Not really much else used in this one unless Yogg-Saron from Trunks gives him an upgrade.
Going into turn 4, DiegoDias has 28 mana worth of cards in his hand. That is way too much.
Yeah. He does have a slight tempo advantage, but he's got a mana disadvantage by 2.
Trunks' hand is fantastic.
Funny story, I was actually talking to Trunks earlier in the week. Yeah, you were there too. And we asked him, he works in IT. I was like, hey, do you play Hearthstone at work? Because most of the guys that work in IT that I know just play Hearthstone all day long, unless something goes wrong. And he was like, well, I used to. I said, why? He said, well, my office used to be in the corner. My desk was like facing the wall, and I used to be able to just sit in the corner and play Hearthstone all day because nobody could see me. He said, but then his desk got moved to like the middle of the room.
Uh-oh.
And now his boss gets in play, so he no longer plays Hearthstone at work.
Smart.
Smart man.
I got the best deal.
I can play Hearthstone at work.
He gets it.
I do get it.
Wow. Trunks' hand is so good. You know, I thought I was a bit surprised to see this Auctioneer, but if you take into account what DiegoDias has actually done this game, this is a fairly brilliant move. The Auctioneer is almost certainly going to die this turn, but what it does is it denies a 6-cost card from DiegoDias in the event that that's the case. It means that there's not Aya Blackpaw, that there's not Jade Behemoth coming down. And with the extra cards that Trunks is picking up here, it means that he's free to get that board development and get 1 step ahead of where Aya Blackpaw, of where Jade Behemoth would be, and make sure that he can keep pace of the game that way. I think that even though the Auctioneer's sacrificed here a bit, that this is a fairly brilliant move from Trunks.
Yeah, still got a second Auctioneer. He's got plenty of plays over the course of the next couple turns, so yeah, I think he's sitting pretty in a Jade Behemoth picked up as well. Keeping those Jades going. These are the minions that you want to have playing early because they're putting a ton of stats on the board. His Jades are starting to get ramped up. The one, shining light for DiegoDias right now is he has Aya Blackpaw. Aya Blackpaw, one of the highest win rate cards in the deck when played. It does a lot of things that you want. It sort of makes your board really resilient, puts a lot of power in the board. It double ramps your Jades because of the Death Rattle effect and the Battle Cry.
The problem is that Trunks can just put him in a similar spot where Fandral often feels like it's a must-kill minion. He's got the Jade Spirit to start ramping up behind that. That's exactly what he's going to do.
I like it. Playing on curve. Much stats on the board as he possibly can. Whoa.
Not
just
near.
awkward.
Not near enough. And Diego is suddenly in a heap of trouble. The damage isn't really his major concern. It's the fact that Trunks is going to be the one dictating the combat here.
And again, the similar pose that we've seen from DiegoDias throughout the spring playoffs for Americas, and now throughout his, albeit short time on stage, super focused, and he's going to need all the focus he can get in this matchup. He's got to be thinking, boy, it looks grim for me right now.
Can he afford to not develop again? Just counter-develop.
Also, it's like, how threatened is he by the Fandral?
Very.
Do you just swipe hero power and try and clean up the board a little bit?
think I like the Aya more.
Yeah, I think so.
But boy, is it tough. And it's potentially going to get tougher.
Yeah.
That's the problem with this, is if Trunks sees himself with a great turn on the back of Fandral here, it's not worth it for DiegoDias to swipe afterwards.
So Trunks just slams the Jade Behemoth. No, this is good. I think that's one of his strongest plays this turn, but there's a possibility to evaluate with the Wrath. If he's thinking about his turn now, I think you think about it before you play the Jade Behemoth.
Yeah, I would venture to say that he has his eye on the Feral Rage. You know, getting both sides of Feral Rage in this matchup, I think, can buy you that little bit of extra time if it comes to a sort of a race scenario. It's acting as a removal spell or would normally be, but he's going to go for Wrath.
Well,
I am a bit surprised.
It's very unlikely that whatever he draws changes his play. But there was a possibility that it did. And so I think that's when you have to worry about the sequencing.
Yeah.
Think through your turn first, see all the options, and then make the strong play. But still, I mean, Trunks definitely ahead, and I still think that was the correct line of play. Once everything was set and done, order may be a little bit off.
And look, no Jade Idol either. He doesn't want the extra copies in his deck, so that means
it's smart.
He's looking for a specific card at this point. That's a 5/5 body he forewent, and every time he draws one, another 1-mana 6/6 or plus body.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to pass up.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually pretty tough, considering a lot of times when you drop Fandral early in the game and your Jades are 1/1, 2/2s, 3/3s, you would rather have a random card in your deck aside from a Jade Idol. But in this case, Trunks said, I would rather have another card in my deck, and I think that card probably would be Gadgetzan Auctioneer. With
5/5 though.
Yeah, 5/5. That's tough, especially in this matchup where if you smell weakness from your opponent, you go in.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of weakness, and I'd say at this point, I'd be happy with a 1-mana 6/6.
Absolutely. I think that this is a spot where Trunks could have simply chokeslammed DiegoDias and instead decided, you know what, I want an Auctioneer.
And he's already played one. It's 1 in 13. I mean, it's not the worst odds.
Wow.
I mean, it's coming out this turn, I think 100% of the time. There is no Yoxeron in DiegoDias Jade Druid. None. He teched his deck for the Aggro matchups. A Hungry Crab, a Galactic Crawler, a Gluttonous Ooze. No Yoxeron. Once you build up a big board, there is no way that DiegoDias is clearing that bad boy off.
This turn's bound to be a backbreaker.
The question is, do Jade Behemoth, Feral Rage innervate out the hero power in order to deal with the 5/5? Or you just clear off the 3/3?
It's good to me.
Looks pretty good to me. His game plan is not subtle whatsoever. He's coming off the ropes with a pile driver.
That's a lot of stuff he just played. And this is what I meant with that Fandral too. DiegoDias still has that swipe in hand, and the Fandral hasn't been too much significant value, but that was, I think, his last turn to really find a strong swipe. He would have had the swipe plus the hero power plus the trade-off on his small minion.
And then hope that he can, you know, run Primordial Drake into hopefully an Auctioneer turn now that his health total is protected. Yeah. It was a tough turn though. Aya sort of screamed at me, you know, as soon as we got to turn 6. Now he's just gonna try and go for it. He was basically like, well, it's innervate or bust for me. Taking risks, trying to spot his game plan there.
I count 23 damage.
So do I.
Trunks is counting it up too. This is a perfectly good time to slow yourself down and just go, let me double check, let me triple check.
Yeah.
Yep, got it. 2-0 lead for Trunks. DiegoDias, if he wants to keep the Latin American hopes alive, is going to need to win 3 straight games. Big win for Trunks.
Saw Trunks had a lineup advantage, but we heard from Ant yesterday in his interview on stage. Sometimes having a lineup advantage can put pressure on you. Because if you go into a match thinking that you're advantaged and you lose, it's like a little bit of shame, you know? But Trunks doesn't seem like he's feeling it. He's playing cool, he's playing calm, and he's up 2-0.
It's been tight play so far. Understands when to apply the pressure. Playing very smart with his resources. It feels at every step of the way that he is fully taking advantage of the way that DiegoDias' lineup is built. It's all about killing anti-aggro, and so Trunks has converted his play to all value.
Yeah, and DiegoDias, you know, over the past year, sort of taken the Brazilian scene by storm. Says he's playing for Brazil, says he's playing for a lot of people back home as well, and he took the opportunity of being on the big stage to give a shout out to some of those people, so take a look.
I made a list of goals for this weekend. My first goal is to make it out of group stage. The next goal is to win a game in the second round. But my ultimate goal is to be the first Latin American to go to the World Championships. I was the first Brazilian to win the Copa America tournament, so I'm used to making history. And now, I'm the first Brazilian in a seasonal championship.
DiegoDias going to the Spring Championship.
A lot of casual and professional players in Brazil have reached out to show their support. I feel like I have an entire nation supporting me back home. And if I win this weekend, it finally puts Brazilian Hearthstone on the map, which it totally deserves. I just started taking English classes in my free time. Can I try saying something in English?
I want to be the first Brazilian to compete in the World Championships.
Breaking ground for Brazilian Hearthstone players, and DiegoDias is a guy that's hard to root against.
It really is. He speaks from the heart, he speaks from the soul. And he said that after attending a Hearthstone event where he had English-speaking roommates in the hotel, he couldn't quite connect with them the way that he's used to with the Latin American scene, and because that he wanted to learn English so that he could make better connections with players as he's traveling and playing the game.
Yeah, we asked DiegoDias, you know, what the sort of the differences in culture between North America and South America, and he was like, you know, when he goes to North America, when people shake hands, they sort of shake hands from a distance. You know, they're a little bit disconnected. He said, but when he's in Brazil, you know, people, when they greet each other, when they see a friend or even just an acquaintance, you know, either for the first time or after not seeing them for a while, they embrace, man, they hug, and we all hugged it out. Right. We all hugged it out in that interview room. So. But right now he needs all the love he's going to get because he's down 2-0. But don't worry, guys. Even after this match, we still got plenty of Hearthstone action coming on the day. Coming up next, another elimination match. Jason Joe taking on Treads Red, Chinese player versus a Japanese player. And Trunks looks like he's in a good spot, but if he were to fall and DiegoDias were to come back, the hopes of this Chinese crowd and the hopes of Chinese Hearthstone fans everywhere would rest on his shoulders. So still a big deal for him, and looking to make a second appearance in a row at a World Championship would be a pretty big deal for Jason Joe as well.
Yeah, the number of players who have that accolade grows slowly year by year, and you could be witnessing history if you're in this crowd this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Tense match, game 3. Trunks match point for the next 3 games, and he's got Murloc Paladin to do it with.
Oh. Murloc Paladin, great against most control matchups. It's sort of an aggressively themed deck that packs a ton of value. Trunks is a little bit less aggressive. You see more mid-range tools in his deck, like the Outdoor Peacekeeper that we saw, but he still has that aggressive package early on with Tidecaller, Rockpool Hunter, the Murloc War Leader. Just got a little bit of late game prowess to back it up.
You see an opening hand like this, you go, wow, this deck's really aggressive. Well, it ticks up pretty fast afterwards. Copy of Kodo, 2 copies of Spike Ridge Steed, Curator, Primordial Drake, Light Lord, and Tyrion. Plenty of top end. If you get an opening hand like this, you are feeling good.
It's a deck that really doesn't give you much room to breathe, because you get through that early board, they go Tidecaller, Rockpool Hunter, Murloc War Leader, Gentle Megazord, like, oh, whew, got through all that. And it's like, well, there's a job of Tyrion. Wait.
Big deal. Aim at a 6/6 on Divine Shield, drops a 5/3 weapon.
Yeah, it just feels like you never get a moment of sanctuary in the game, especially if they get a blistering early start like Trunks has. Called it an uphill battle for DiegoDias, but this is Mount Everest.
Now, that being said, I think in this particular matchup that DiegoDias has an edge. A lot of the cards are fairly equally matched in the early game. DiegoDias has weapons, he's got qualities to help fight against that pressure. And as you move towards the later stages, he's got the same tools to match Trunks. The big difference that he's got is that N'Zoth. If he's able to find and land a big N'Zoth, it is so difficult for Trunks to come back from that.
It really is. He's got a couple of tools to maybe try and deal with it. I'm thinking like Haldor Peacekeeper, Stampeding Kodo, like those types of things that the mid-range Paladin can get over the top more than the aggressive Paladin. But I mean, once you get to that stage, you've almost lost it. Trunk's going to trade over. Important to sort of protect your Murlocs in this matchup to try and get that tribal synergy rolling.
DiegoDias, every single time he sees one or two of these Murlocs stick to the board as well, that's a worrisome thing. You're always thinking, what if he's got War Leader? What if he's got Gentle Megasaur? Those two cards, if Trunks is ahead, they're big hitters. So DiegoDias has two different ways to really handle this position immediately. Number one is he's got Wild Pyromancer Noble Sacrifice. That would wipe out the Tide Color and then set up the Rock Pool Hunter to die. Or he's got Rallying Blade and try to invest into future moves. He also has the Audible of Hydrologist, potentially get 2 activations out of Wild Pyromancer with secrets.
Yeah,
but that one seems sketch.
Then you give up your Wild Pyromancer with the double secret. I like this one.
I think this is his strongest on-board play.
Yeah. Protects his Wild Pyromancer even, unless a Weapon Swing comes out. And then if you see a Weapon Swing, there's no development. Which means you can set a Hydrologist, you can set an Acolyte of Pain if you're happy with just one draw in the matchup.
Looks like DiegoDias is poised to take a lead. And this is exactly where he needs to be. If he can't take a lead versus Trunks, there's always punishes available. But taking the lead, now that's a big difference. Very difficult for Trunks to really punish DiegoDias if he doesn't have that onboard synergy.
This is what we talked about. You think you're home free. Now it's not yet though. We still got a while to go. So this is that lull. DiegoDias was able to get through the board quick enough to where he will find that sanctuary that he wants so much in this matchup. That's tough.
Getaway Kodo is a very common choice when you're hunting for value. But Trunks may need something more than that in this game. If that's the case, he could be eyeing redemption.
Getaway Kodo provides you with more value. Redemption gives you a little bit of a better board position because it guarantees that you're going to have something next turn. Or not guarantees, but you're very likely to go next turn. Getaway Kodo is the choice. I think if he takes Redemption, it's basically countered on board. Swings into the Hydrologist, and then boom, swings in with the Wild Pyromancer.
Yeah, I'd be thinking down the road, like hope to draw Tyrion, get Redemption with Tyrion.
Yeah.
That's a tough play to line up, though, especially when you don't have Tyrion yet.
You can do the same thing with... No.
No.
You can.
But you can't.
It's not as good. Masterful. I can see it.
DiegoDias is not offered with any value options on his Hydrologists, but that first Noble Sacrifice was a doozy. And I'm going to venture to say he's looking towards clearing off this board and setting the Acolyte of Pain, and then riding that value train the rest of the way. With Curator, with Sunkeeper's Harem, with Equality, card draw is probably his #1 priority right now. And that's one of the reasons he takes the Repentance here, is he simply wants to be able to make sure Trunks cannot get ahead of him.
Repentance usually pretty low priority, especially in the case when you have Equality. But his other two choices were just pretty poor.
Very similar focus from both players, too, as you see the over-the-shoulder look. A lot of matches you see the players looking at each other. Like I think back to Pavel at the Bahamas.
Just smirking.
Every time he would look up, he'd stare at his opponent. And then Doc Pone looked at him one time, he started giggling. It's so intimidating right till then.
It's hard not to, because if you think back to then, Pavel would look over at somebody, have a serious face, but as soon as they look back, he would smile. It's quite amusing. But yeah, to your point, hyper focus on all of the players that we've seen here today. Focus on their game, not on their opponent that's sitting across from them. Play your own game.
Move quickly.
Both outdoors gone. Whoa. Does set the getaway Kodo, so he can get it back, but at the moment DiegoDias doesn't even have a way to challenge this outside the Sunkeeper Terror. Maybe he feels okay about that.
I think Sunkeeper's totally fine here.
It's his only play, really, to be honest. Sunkeeper Terror, hit base with the Acolyte first. If it's Noble Sacrifice, you get an extra card draw.
Let me think.
And then you still have the option to trade in Aldar Peacekeeper, but I kind of like face damage in that situation. Your 2/3/3s are protected by the Sunkeeper Terror. We're rolling into turn 6. So 7-drop is possible if DiegoDias is keeping track of the coin. I don't know if you're worried about Repentance too much. Maybe a counter Sunkeeper, but that's about it.
Yeah, so if Repentance is the play from Trunks, I think the Sunkeeper then actually looks like a better play because it means you get to trade off the board.
Yeah.
And just, you ate a really important secret and you're rolling into Curator on the following turn. You're just outpacing Trunks in value, if that's the case. And I like keeping the Acolyte of Pain around in this scenario to threaten any small value that Trunks wants to land on board as well. I mean, DiegoDias has his next turn set up. You know, there is a consideration for not drawing cards that you can thin your deck prior to drawing them. It increased the quality of the draw post Curator. You know, now suddenly Trunks looks at that little vial from Inquisitor and goes, yeah, maybe it's not that great. Looks better there, though.
There's the old Infested Tauren.
I still question that choice. That's one of the only major choices I think DiegoDias line up for that question. Oh, also the Primordial Drake coupling with the Acolyte of Pain. It's another reason to save it.
Good call. Probably just a pass.
Yeah, DiegoDias isn't the one who needs to make headway in the combat. He just needs to make sure he's not dying. As long as he is not in a threatened position, he is totally fine with the way the board's going.
He will outvalue as this game goes on. That's the thing to keep in mind. Just got to overcome sort of the waves of minions that Trunks is inevitably going to push out. You know, one of the things that you can do is sort of forget about how much reload Murloc Paladin actually has.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, they get a Hero Power, a Murloc War Leader, and then a Gentle Megasaur. And that's a board that can potentially chew through a lot or deal a ton of damage. You get a board full of like these 1/1 Murloc tokens from the Vial of an Inquisitor, poisonous, and all of a sudden that board that you took a long time to build up is chopped down.
Yeah, not very gentle.
He's an aggressive Megasaur.
He's a 5/4. What's gentle about that?
Well, Admirable.
Well, +3 attack.
It's not bad.
Wait, could he have gone +1/+1 and kept it? No, Curator's 4 power. Never mind. Wait, no, it was a 5/4. Because of the War Leader, he could have given it +1/+1.
Maybe this is a nod to he wants the War Leader on board to be more aggressive.
It's interesting.
You'd rather have a 6/3 as opposed to a 4/4 and a 6/1. Yeah, you're right.
Very curious.
Also, I want to go back and, you know, I think the gentleness refers to the fact that the Murlocs are attracted to the Megasaur. Murlocs are fickle beasts.
I
you
get
know?
it. So he's actually just, he's out for power. And he's tricked the Murlocs into doing his bidding.
It's not
In
where
a less dark way.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail right on top there, man.
I think it's the first time I've ever made you outright roll your eyes at me.
It may be. It may be. All right, Stonehill Defender. Generate.
Oh my. Oh, that is bad.
You can hear a groan from the crowd here.
This is like
as
one of
they
those
see that.
really bad arena picks, and you're like, come on. I have way too many 3-drops. The Frostwolf Grunt dies to everything, and what am I going to do with a Shield Bearer?
Also want to point out, Trunks had a pretty good Primordial Drake there, would have swept up the Acolyte of Pain, put a 4-in on the board, but I guess he did have a nod to Repentance. Seeker was kept in hand until there was an empty board.
Right into his turn 8.
Yeah, really good spot from Trunks. Go for a less powerful play in order to better play around the possible secrets from DiegoDias. Heads up.
We've seen a lot of players lose that presence of mind at times. Just a momentary slip up, and it costs them dearly. I think back to Mage in the Kalento match yesterday, where he didn't realize his rope was burning down as he was checking it out. Boom. Like that, roped out, didn't even, missed 11 damage.
DiegoDias, ultimate comfort. No shoes.
Just like home.
Those are some dirty socks, but comfortable socks. Trying to sort of mimic his home environment, you know, where he plays.
Do you wear shoes when you play?
No.
I wear shoes a lot at home, actually, now I think about it.
Weird.
I know. I mean, just listen to me. How long have we been talking? Just now finding this out.
I don't know if I can cast it.
Same.
Hey, speak to me.
DiegoDias, still I'd say in a reasonable spot. He hasn't taken much damage. He's chopped through some of the aggression of Trunks. One thing he does need to find, though, is some of those big threats of his own. He needs to find Tyrion. He needs to find N'Zoth. Stonehill Defender could be great as well, just because it can generate additional resources.
Still got a Cairn.
Still got a Cairn. So he's got a while before he gets to that point where he just plops the N'Zoth on the board and effectively wins the game. He's got to stifle the pressure even more so.
So far, that seemed like the easy part for him. Like, Trunks has really not been able to get much going in this game. He's beating brick wall after brick wall. You know, DiegoDias, he doesn't quite have him in like a tap-out situation yet, but he's got him in a headlock.
It's gonna be a long time before he's out, though.
That's an 8-8, but what does an 8-8 do here?
Moment of truth.
Shoes.
Shoes it is.
Socks.
Stark contrast in decks and foot attire.
Curious what you at home wear when you're playing Hearthstone. Shoes or no shoes?
Don't misplay.
Let me think.
1 in the chat for shoes, 2 in the chat for no shoes.
Oh, it's the rag. I like the play. You know, the heal isn't really the serviceable portion of Ragnaros in this matchup, not the Light Lord anyway. but an 8-8 will certainly test Trunks. Do you have pressure to fight back right now?
Trunks, even though he's gone with the more mid-range version of the Murloc Paladin, still lacks equality is the big thing here.
One copy.
One copy of equality.
Yeah.
Still lacks 2 copies of equality. But I don't know if that's going to get him very far. He's going to need that equality pretty soon to get to that 8-8. Because the one thing about Ragnaros Lightlord is if you put it on a board at this stage of the game when you know that your opponent can't get through it, it can also, you know, do the work of healing up your minions, let you sort of manipulate work off that.
Poisonous.
Oh, man.
It's not gentle, and the Light Lord falls.
This is what I was talking about earlier. Exactly what. You cannot underestimate how much reload the Murloc Paladin has. Because even these small little guys with their tiny little hammers can destroy worlds.
Do not overestimate, or do not underestimate, rather, overwhelming stupidity and overwhelming numbers. Enough little tiny Murlocs will get anything done. Except for the Swamp King Dread. That video is horrendous. Do you remember watching that?
No.
When they previewed Swamp King Dread and they just kept throwing
Murloc
Tiny Fin after
Fins.
Murloc Tiny Fin? Oh, it was horrifying.
It's like the Infinite Murloc's Infinite Typewriter thing.
Yeah. If you have enough Murlocs in outer space playing as monkeys on typewriters, eventually they replicate Hearthstone. It's a classic saying.
Something like that. Well, DiegoDias is going to be able to stabilize, but at what cost? You can chop down this Primordial Drake.
Well, that's actually a pretty significant draw.
He's still got a pretty big hump to get over. So let's take stock of where DiegoDias in his progression to get to that point where he's going to have a win over Trunks here. He has only drawn 1 Death Rattle.
Infested Tauren.
Infested Tauren. Still no Tyrion in hand. Light Lord's gone. Still no N'Zoth in hand. Still no Cairn, played or in hand. He's got a long ways to go. He's got a lot of draws to go. And while this deck does have value generation in Stonehill Defender and sort of card draw in Curator, it doesn't have, you know, on-demand card draw. And he's already used the Curator. So he needs multiple turns before he's able to piece together enough of that puzzle in order to get to the spot where he's going to be able to win.
I like it. I think this is exactly where Trunks needs to be right now. DiegoDias showed a lot of trouble clearing the previous board. I say you put him to the test right now.
Stonehill Defender, welcome draw.
Ooh.
I mean, that's a little better than Trunks from earlier.
Grime Street Protector, I think, is pretty darn good here.
It's good, but the one thing about Grime Street Protector is that it's better if you already have big minions on the board. And he doesn't. And he doesn't really have any big minions to even play. At the moment, he just has that Stonehill Defender. And a 1/1.
Any merit to setting a Doomsayer behind this, maybe? Take the Grime Street, set a Doomsayer. Hope that the Stonehill can
protect it?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Where else is he getting a better spot for that Doomsayer? You know, sure, it'll drop a 2/6 afterwards, but then you can either set the Grime Street Protector or you can Coda. If Doomsayer gets checked, it means that Trunks is playing a card from his hand to take care of that.
Yeah,
I think that's a victory.
Yeah. He could have gone Crazy Worshipper Doomsayer, but that sort of goes against what he's trying to do there is get the Doomsayer to go off, because then he's just sort of over-committing to forcing his Doomsayer to go off.
Simply playing the 6/6 is still very similar, too.
Yeah.
Just trying to trade resources. Again, if DiegoDias continues to trade resources, I think he finds himself ahead. Does that mean Trunks needs to continue to play more of a value-oriented game?
So there's a few options here. Some more risky than others. Aldor Peacekeeper onto the 6-1. Double trade into the Stonehill Defender. And then rip the Kodo for a 50-50. I mean,
he's been holding that Aldor for a long time now.
If you do that, leaving, even if it hits the 1-1, leaving a 1-6 on the board isn't the biggest deal because you still have a 7-3.
Yeah, you can just do this in attack too.
Yeah, you can do this in attack as well. Yeah, this is actually just straight up better than the previous play. Now he's hoping for a Stonehill Defender hit on with that Stampeding Kodo.
I don't think he's going to play Kodo. I think he's waiting on the something bigger.
Doomsayer, perhaps? Such patience. His Aldors are gone. He's already played 2, and he even played the 3rd one because he got it from Getaway Kodo. So him keeping the Stampeding Kodo is a nod to one specific thing. I think Doomsayer? I don't honestly know.
I can't really think of what else it could be.
I mean, maybe Spike Steed comes out and he hits the Stegadon on the backside. There's a few things.
He could just be trying to get Diego to believe it's something other than it is as well. You know, just looking at the board and going, what's this Kodo really going to do for me? If Diego thinks it's a different card, maybe he slows down a bit.
Yeah, also there's the fact that he's got a huge minion on board that needs to be removed in time from DiegoDias. And DiegoDias has been holding on to a ton of cards for a long time. He's been playing off the top of his deck, so he's saying, well, also, Stampeding Kodo doesn't have a big effect, and I also don't want to overextend into a quality clear. So yeah. I think that's a heads-up play.
And if it slows Diego down enough, can you actually buy a big tempo play with the Kodo rather than just trying to keep pace and then seeing Diego, as a result, play stronger into the board? You know, he's got to find a tempo play to really generate that value, and seeing the Aldor Peacekeeper, you know, once again, shuts that down. Back on the value plan.
Well, you can clear a board except for a 1-1 here and have a 2-6 Stegadon. And that for a Primordial Drake. Actually, you can actually also, with the weapon swing, protect this Aldor Peacekeeper.
I draw like turn 17 now. Trunks drops DiegoDias to 27.
Very grindy matchup. As long as the Paladin can stifle some of the other pressure, and another Stonehill Defender. But are we going to get 3 pretty underwhelming Stonehill Defenders in a row? Or can we finally put our faith in the light?
This card has got such a high chance to find a strong Paladin taunt.
Primordial Drake.
I think that's just strong enough.
Yeah.
Shield Bearer really wants to get in there, but...
So does Craze Worshipper, apparently.
That's the second one we've seen too.
Craze Worshipper, a.k.a. That's Admirable.
I bleed for Cthulhu. Nobody plays Cthulhu anymore.
Bummer.
Diego's really trying to find a reason to take one of the other ones. He's got his turn planned out, I think.
I mean, Craze Worshipper does have the benefit of him being able to play it this turn. I think that's
So he's going for the Doomsayer now. So this was the next setup. He feels that Trunks has been floundering a little bit with his board position and says, now's the time. But DiegoDias has nothing to reload after this Doomsayer. This is purely for board clear. No tempo bot off this. Unless.
Trunks can isolate the Doomsayer with Consecration. Consecration. Stegadon goes over the Stonehill Defender. Primordial Drake goes over the Crazed Worshipper.
Kodo it.
And you Kodo it. You're overextending a little bit into a board position, but
I think it's
you got Stonehill Defender to back it up.
The other thing is I think it's fine to do after DiegoDias invests this much into trying to get a Doomsayer online.
Yeah.
That's what he's going for, I think.
And maybe he would have tried to go with a a different line of play had he not picked up Stonehill Defender to try and have some reload.
Oh my.
While this is a threatening board, it's not like the biggest that I've seen for the Paladin. And if he forces an equality clear out of this
one. Oh my gosh, he can equality, Wild Pyromancer, and then steed it. End up with a 5-6, 5-7, and clear the board off.
That seems pretty good. That seems really good.
That's a play I used back in 2014. I would often quality Wild Pyro and then cast a spell with, like, say, Holy Light or something. And that 3-1 was often enough to quite literally force your opponent to do something. I was like, yes, got an extra card.
I thought you were going to say, players to make back in 2014 where I would quality Wild Pyromancer and then Spike-Rich Steed.
That was the alpha stage of
I mean, there was a long time. I could think back to 2015, 2016, where players were still not keeping alive a Pyromancer. I like the other play. The only thing that this does, though, is it says to Trunks, "Hey, bud, want to overextend?"
Oh, mama. And the natural Tyrians are still in both decks. We are now heading into the bottom thirds of these players' decks. DiegoDias still has Tyrian. He still has Cairn. He still has N'Zoth. Trunks, he's down to just about Tyrian in that bottom spot. You know, a couple of non-all-star hits remaining down there as well. He's got a copy of Finja still.
This one's going to come down to the wire. Because Trunks he's packing a late game. If he has 2 Tyrians himself, Ragnaros Lightlord, and he gets those on the board first, maybe he can chew through a board before DiegoDias is able to find N'Zoth.
The other thing, too, is Trunks is at 16. If Diego had gone for equality, Wild Pyro, Spike-Ridge Steed, he would also be putting pressure on Trunks as well. So that would close that window of opportunity that much quicker.
Smart trades by Trunks. I think he was spending a lot of time on the choice for Tyrian, maybe to try and put up a veil for what he was choosing, because Tyrion's usually an auto pick.
Yeah.
But trades the right way. Still has almost the same exact board that he had last turn, but now DiegoDias is minus a Spike-Ridge Steed.
That's right.
So I don't know. I liked your play. He was trying to buy time and maybe hope that Trunks would overextend. I don't know.
The other thing, too, is that is not the easiest play in the world to spot. You know, oftentimes as you build experience with a deck, the combination of Wild Pyromancer equality is such an automatic muscle memory type of thing that you forget that order of operations can change the way that works. I mean, I remember practicing Paladin for like months on end, and it was about 600 games in I realized I could equality, then play Wild Pyromancer or something else. You know, especially imagine now being on the stage. You're down 2 games. This is the biggest match of your life. You can miss some stuff. DiegoDias. Whew, that is a risky maneuver.
Oh, yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 damage I count from Trunks.
Now the question is, how do you want to start dealing damage? Do you set Spike-Ridge Steed and say go, make your board resilient? Or do you jam the Tyrian, get that Ashbringer online?
You put your faith in the light, TJ.
I definitely like this. He made sure that he traded over the 1-1 to play around the Wild Pyromancer equality clear, because now DiegoDias will have to trade in his Cairn, then Wild Pyro equality, and then he loses his full Cairn. And then Trunks, that's a ton of mana. Well, I guess it's 4, but not really much development with 6 mana in his Zoth Paladin deck.
Yep.
And then he's got...
I liked his face plan.
Yeah.
This turn, you know, 2014 World Champion Firebat once told me, the turn you go for face is the turn your opponent doesn't affect your board.
Let me think.
He's last couple turns from Diego just it felt greedy to me. I think he started to lose that patience as he's going, come on, like Tyrion and N'Zoth are in my bottom cards. Like that's my bread and butter.
Got to go for it now.
And he's facing down the pressure of the Ashbringer. Smart for the Doomsayer to just try to buy him some time on the minion front, but
he effectively needs Tyrion on his next draw.
He's got Forbidden Healing to buy a lot of this like back, but
do you set a Spiker Steed here just to set up a 2-turn kill? I guess you have the 2-turn kill with Consecrate anyway. Forget that.
Look at this too. He can get away Kodo, and when the Doomsayer activates, get the Hydrologist back. So when he does this play, I'm guessing that Spikeridge Steed was on his mind. Wow, he went for Redemption here. It's an aggressive play from Trunks, but I really like it. Threaten that Steed. And for Diego, this looks like hero power Forbidden Healing.
DiegoDias has Tyrion and N'Zoth in his bottom 5. Trunks also has a natural Tyrion left in his bottom 7.
If Diego does not either taunt or heal this turn, he's dead.
He's got to know that.
I wonder.
So the question is, Kodo, Forbidden Healing, or Hero Power Spectre Steed?
Or Hero Power Healing. Either way, this is a tough spot to be in. Yeah. Because as we come close to the fatigue as well, DiegoDias is going to have to counter pressure. He's going Forbidden Healing. He's going the Kodo. He wants to get the Spikeridge Steed online. And there's Ragnaros Light Lord drawn for Trunks. And this is a big turn. That is a huge draw. With Diego setting himself back at 16, Trunks now is back in the value plan. He's in the driver's seat here. Cut down this Kodo, drop that Light Lord. He'll be in full control.
Still a little bit of a decision-making here. Even with that, it's do you go face, do you kill the Kodo? But he's going to realize that if he kills the Kodo, he protects it from being able to Spikeridge Steed and having to attack the Ragnaros Light Lord plus a weapon shot next turn into it.
The Light Lord also is better in these value battles when your opponent's board is isolated. They don't have an opportunity to just slightly damage something and try to direct that healing effect to something useless.
Also, with Light Lord plus Spikeridge Steed Consecration, he still sets up lethal next turn.
Oh.
Because what? He's got, if he kills the Kodo, DiegoDias is still at 16. He's got 13 from Ragnaros Light Lord plus a weapon hit next turn, Spikeridge Steed Consecration. That gets him through.
I'm really surprised that Trunks did not hit this Kodo. Like, even at the very least, your opponent's drawing Tyrion 20% of the time here, so that 1-1 is really important to have to bump the Divine Shield.
Yeah, imagine that if he forced him to hero power Spikeridge Steed that turn. He would have been able to run over with Ragnaros Light Lord and then kill the Stegodon with the hero power token plus the weapon hit. If Ragnaros heals himself back up, now he's just in a strictly worse situation.
He did get the Steed out of the way, though. I mean,
that's true.
He's still playing value strong here.
There's a ton going through his head right now. We can look at results. We can be results-oriented and say,
I don't know. I think he planned this.
Maybe, but now he doesn't have the token left. Traded over the 1-1. If he had no minion on board, he wouldn't have been able to trade over that. Now doesn't cleanly get through the Stegodon.
Yeah, you're right.
That's real tough, man. Those are small little things that could add up. He could have an empty board right now. But probably something else going through his head.
No Tyrion.
There's all this, it's not enough. Well, I mean, it might stall for another turn. Actually, no, it wouldn't.
He's got Infested Tauren behind.
It doesn't matter. He trades the, oh yeah, because he can trade over the 3/3.
Yeah. I think he's got an Azoth this turn. As much as he would love to have Tyrion first, he does not have time for this. If he waits, he's going to die.
He needed to draw those in the other order. He needed Tyrion this turn into N'Zoth.
Tyrion and Azoth both in the bottom 4 cards of DiegoDias' deck. I mean, he doesn't have an option. He's absolutely got to play to the board. He needs to just fight. I mean, the other thing, too, is now he's out of healing, and he's going to be taking in fatigue first. He has to kill Trunks. And that Ragnaros looks like it's going to heal itself, and that is bad news for DiegoDias.
Trade hit, Murlocs go.
I don't even think you hit with the weapon. I think you let the Ragnaros Lightlord heal itself.
Oh yeah, but then if he doesn't hit through the weapon, he has to expend another minion hit next turn to get through.
He's the one playing defense right now. He can play defense as a victory condition.
So in that case, in order to be able to get through the 2/3, you rock pull the Finja.
Yeah, I think you rock pull the Finja, just hero power. Yeah, this is a smart play.
Smart play. Really smart play.
Trunk absolutely has him in a sleeper hold right now.
No attack.
DiegoDias doesn't even have the damage to kill the front half of the Ragnaros Lightlord unless he tanks 10 damage.
That's it. The crowd knows it. DiegoDias' run in the Spring Championship looks like it just ended. What a grueling game that was.
This feels like it's been a best of 5, and we're in game 3. This game has
really
gone the absolute distance.
These players have less than 5 cards in their deck. DiegoDias has 2 cards left in his deck. I believe one of them's a quality and one of them's Tyrion.
I believe so.
Those are terrible cards to have in the bottom of your deck. That's a real bummer for him, man. But you can see it on his face. The attack in with the true server champion.
Run over that Tyrion all you want. These efforts are futile. Trunks is going to be the first Chinese representative to win a match here at the Spring Championships in Shanghai. He will eliminate DiegoDias and be 1 round away from the top 8.
Breathe some life into the crowd, man. They got 1 through to the cider match in the second half of the day. 1 player. Jason Joe's coming up next, but that's a big win for them and honestly a big relief for Chinese Hearthstone fans, as well as I think all 4 Chinese players here to see Trunks go through. Definitely deserving of a round of applause. That's a tough match to play, and I feel like he navigated it pretty well.
Oh, he's got a tough one ahead of him as well.
I don't even know who the crowd's going to root for. The only Chinese player to make it through the groups, or Kalento, who's basically in the has a bigger fan base than most Chinese players throughout the day. But definitely a great performance by Trunks, and he's standing by on stage right now with a few words with Ali.
All right, everyone, let's hear it for Trunks！ 掌声送给特兰克斯各位朋友，不够热烈！哇，真的太精彩了！他是我们这一次世锦赛中国选手的第1场胜利啊，真的非常的不容易。下面所有人都看的心里面都在流泪啊，流汗都有，因为毕竟那么难啊，总算赢了1场。您现在感受如何呢 ？So you are the first Chinese player to win in this tournament. How are you feeling now? 赢得这场胜利还是比较开心的，就是取得中国队的开门红嘛。但是我接下来还有一个强敌在后面，就是克伦特嘛。就是我要晋级的话，还要越过克伦特这座山，所以我还要继续努力。
All right, okay, he just said that it's really, really difficult to be the first one to win, but it's a great thing. But he's going to face the K-God, so now he's under huge pressure, but I'm sure he can do a good job. Okay, the next question. Do you want to say anything specific to our audience? Because we really want to hear from you. 有什么要对我们观众说的吗？把你内心的所有的想法都告诉大家。
感谢所有的观众，我觉得中国队的胜利没有你们支持是不行的，谢谢。
非常好 He just thanked all our audience. He said that without their support, there will be no victory for Chinese team. All right. 那希望大家能够继续鼓励我们中国队选手，包括我们即将上场的大家也非常喜欢的选手，好吗？那再次把掌声送给我们的特兰克斯 ，Thank you so much.
Man, Trunks just wasting no time, just taking the mic right out of Ollie's hand. He's got a lot to say, man.
I mean, he's got a lot on his shoulders for this one. He's the one carrying right now. That is the first win. Now 1 in 6 in matches. In the next match versus Kalento, I'm pretty glad I'm not in Trunk's shoes right now. That's just me.
Yeah. Kalento, definitely one of the most feared players in the tournament. Maybe not